Today we're looking at 36.5 acres in Waushara County, Wisconsin. These are the types of properties that really get me excited because it's not a huge property, but I know by looking at the overhead view that there's a lot of potential here, and that's what I look for, especially in these smaller properties. Welcome to the Whitetail Property Playbook. Today we're looking at 36.5 acres in Waushara County, Wisconsin. These are the types of properties that really get me excited because it's not a huge property, but I know by looking at the overhead view that there's a lot of potential here, and that's what I look for, especially in these smaller properties. 36.5 acres. It's not even a 40, and as you look at it, it's not even square. It's a long, skinny piece, but you can do a lot with a piece like this, and what I like about these, it gets you farther off the road and allows you to better analyze the deer behavior and hunt them and keep the pressure off of them. That's key in any property, but especially a smaller property like this. So I'm looking at this right here. It's buildable up by the road. That's key. I could put a house there, I could put a cabin there, and hunt right out of the backyard. You can't get any better than that. But the nice thing about this property, that overhead view, what I always say is you have to have a deer factory of some sort, either on the property you're buying or around you. In this case, it's around us. If you look at the overhead view, we have lots of wooded acreage to the east, to the north, so a lot of ag land also, and wooded acreage to the north and west. This is key, and when I look at it, it screams to me whitetail funnel. The deer are going to be passing through this property routinely. Allows me a blank slate here to do whatever I want. I can add food plots, I can add additional security cover, additional travel cover, and that could be in the case of conifers, it could be in food, it could be soft mass with apples, pears, plums, cherries. I love doing that stuff, and you can establish that rather quickly. And also I can put hard mass in there, even like hazelnut bushes, things that are going to keep deer on that property for a disproportionate amount of time. That's what you want, is you want to have deer not only funneling through the property, but giving them a reason to stay there. Other keys to this property, there is some lowland here, so there's potential, there's pond potential if needed. We have a creek out by the road, nice. You always want to have water, you want to have food, water, cover. You can have it all right here. And as I said before, the really nice thing is we can set up shop right there. It's not one of these pieces where we're driving a couple hours to get there and then just hunting, nowhere to stay. You could pop up a small hunting cabin. You could bring in a prefab if you wanted, or you could even build your cabin or house of your dreams. A very nice property. What I like about it, it has all those things going for it. I know there's some marshland up front, but I also know there's some higher ground back here. I would get some analogics in there. Probably some fixing clover. I'm gonna get that in the ground. It's gonna actually add to the soil. I can get that there in spring, allow it grow all summer. The deer are gonna eat it. It's gonna be great for lactating does. It's gonna be great for bucks. It's gonna be great for all the wildlife. Till that back into the soil, that really helps the nitrogen levels of the soil, especially on a property that has not been planted before. So there's a lot of options for my analogics food plots here, and there's also options for the different configurations. I could do a long oval, I could do an S shape, I could do several staging plots as well, which would allow me to get my brassicas in there in fall, ready for the hunting season right away in fall. With our Orion blinds, we could put blinds throughout this property to maximize wind direction, and then, hunt big bucks if we want to, because we can hunt when the conditions are perfect. You can't really get it any better than that, especially in a piece this small. Hey, don't go away. Later in the show, I'm hunting a marshy, low ground property just like this one during the rut, and the buck activity was unbelievable.
Deer and Deer Hunting Properties is brought to you by Analogics, perfecting the science of deer feed. Ready to harvest a giant? Let Analogics help you attract, hold, pattern, and grow trophy bucks. Analogics, because there is no off-season.
It's the early part of the growing season, And we want to set up this camera to have summer success on this trail camera throughout the entire growing season. We want to see those velvet bucks, the velvet rut, as people like to call it. And I just want to give a few quick tips about what I've learned over the many years of trail camming. I typically do this over mineral sites, but it doesn't have to be over a mineral site. It can be over a well-used trail, you know, along like creek crossings or funnels, just places where you're naturally seeing deer movement is where you can put up the trail camera. And the first thing I like to get is the frame. So you imagine where the trail camera is going to be. We're going to put it on this tree. I want to make sure I've got all the branches clear from this area because I don't want to have wind setting off this camera. So I'm going to set this down. I'm going to cut these limbs off that are in the way of this frame. Okay, so now we've got a good opening here on this trail. I like to point this either directly north or directly south. And that way you don't get a lot of sun exposure. If you face it east or west, when that's rising or setting, you get a lot of sun glare hitting the camera lens. So if I've got a spot that I can keep it north or south, that's what I'm going to target. So next I want to talk about SD cards, storage, and interval with your trail cameras. So if you're over a mineral site and you have a lot of deer coming to that area, I like to set my interval at 1 minute. Because what I want to do is I want to get a picture of every deer that comes in, but I don't want hundreds of pictures of every deer that comes in just because I don't have a lot of time to go through and analyze all these pictures. So with 1 minute, that's a good balance. What that means is the camera is going to take a picture and then it's going to just rest for that whole minute and then it will take another picture. So I typically run a 32 gigabyte SD card in my non-cellular cameras and I'll check those about every month. And that's perfect because I'll usually have 1,500 pictures to look through. If you like looking through trail camera pictures and you have more time, set your interval, you know, as like 10 seconds. And then you can look at more pictures. You know, if you've got a big buck in an area, you can maybe increase your interval rate so you can get more pictures of that big buck. And just remember that as you take more pictures, you're going to need more space on the SD card. So if you've got a lot of pictures, maybe go up to a 64 gig card, or if you're in an area where it's going to be not checked for many months and you might not be able to clear that card, you know, I call it a heavy soak. You know, the crab world, they put out pods, and a heavy soak is when they don't get back to that pod for a long time. I do some trail camera heavy soaks. I actually had one this last winter. I put it out in November and I got back to that camera in April and it was still taking pictures. There was over 6,000 pictures, and it's just exciting to watch throughout the year as things change and different bucks come into an area, but you got to make sure you got the SD card that can handle that many pictures. Okay, so to wrap up, we've talked about the setup of a summer trail cam site. You want to make sure you avoid the sun glare. You want to make sure you have enough SD card. You want to have your interval set to the amount of SD card that you have. You want to make sure you clear your frame so that there's nothing tripping the camera, and watch the pictures roll in.
Hey, it's Jason Rickman with DDH Properties. In the next segment, we're going to talk about what are the best strategies to selling your hunting land. You're watching Deer and Deer Hunting Properties.
Deer and Deer Hunting Properties is brought to you by Orion Hunting Products. Engineered for stealth and safety, Orion's modular, lightweight design allows you to set up camp anywhere you want to hunt. No heavy equipment, no problem. Orion Hunting Products.
Hi, I'm Jason Rickman with Deer and Deer Hunting Properties. Today I'm going to talk about some strategies for as a seller to get the best dollar for their property. Number one, a lot of sellers kind of get trapped by a realtor listing their property, and they put a price on there and they get an offer right away and they take it. A lot of times your best offer would have came after that. So what I like to do with my sellers and my own personal properties when I've sold them is always give a nice window for showings. So typically 5 to 7 day showing period of when I make the listing live to when I accept offers. And what that does is allows everybody on their different schedules from different areas in the United States and maybe surrounding areas to come and take a look at your property. If I just take one person's opinion,
a lot of times that is the wrong opinion. So what I do, and for example, I had a client once that we did this 7-day window period. They got an offer right away and they tried to make us look at the offer right away, even though we explained we're gonna take a look at the offers after 7 days. That same buyer gave us an offer at the first day, ended up changing their offer $50,000 more because they knew they would be bidding against other people. Perfect example of why we do that, right? So if we have people that can come on a Thursday or Friday, but they can't come on a weekend or vice versa, this allows everybody to see your property. And when they have that sense of urgency, it creates leverage for the seller. And when I'm a seller or I'm working with a seller, I want to create that leverage for them. And so if we have 4 or 5 people making offers versus 1, it's always going to be the best interest for the seller. A couple other things we can do to get max dollar for that seller is just like a house, right? Everybody's heard of staging your house. Staging your property is just as important. So, especially if it's a property in a hard to sell area or a hard to sell type of property, staging is extremely beneficial. And what do I mean by staging? A couple things. Number one, we want to make sure that we have good stands, tree stands, and bow and gun, and in placements, right? And have those travel corridors for us as a hunter to be able to get in and out without the deer detecting us. Also, we want to make sure the deer have some good travel corridors. So that's very important, along with, if we have some ag, to have those food plots established so that they can see that. So that when a buyer comes through, the less work they have, the better off it is for the seller, because they can see, they can move right in and just start hunting. Probably one of the most important things is having good pictures along with great drone work. And not only that drone pictures, but drone videos, so that a buyer from 4 states away can see exactly how this property lays out, along with some boundary lines so that they can see that. Those are very important for people then when aren't close, but they still want to make an offer on that property. Along with some tours and videos along with your agent. At Deer Hunting Properties, our agents all will do a tour for our clients so that buyers from across the United States can see them. And we'll point out those little things about the mature trees and the eggs that's already either set up with food plots or the possibilities, along with the water sources that are either there or what we could put in and establish. So those are extremely important parts of listing a land that will get you that max dollar that maybe the average realtor might just put a yard sign up and say, hey, it's for sale, right? So from my experience of selling, I come from a seller's perspective. I've sold over 300 acres of my own personal properties. So whether it was 18 acres or over 200 acres of land, I've sold it on my own personal side. And so I can really give that seller a perspective, where a lot of agents can't do that. I can tell them, hey, I've been in your shoes. This is what I've done. Here's what we need to change, or here's what we don't need to change. This is a really good offer. So I think that personal touch that I can give our sellers is very important. Along with the agents that work with us, they all have their own experiences, but they can also rely on the experiences that I've been able to be a part of. And I think that's what sets us apart at Deer Hunting Properties that a lot of agents can't give you.
Coming up next on Deer Hunting Properties, Dan shows us how it's done. You're watching Deer Hunting Properties.
All right, it's our first sit here in Nebraska. This is going to be a good night, I believe. We just came in here. The bucks are rutting really hard. There's does coming into estrus, and it seems we've been watching this all morning. We got in late last night, had to sight in my rifle. I didn't want to go hunting without sighting my rifle. It's dead on. But these bucks are holding these does up in these various little wood lots. They're very small, just these little pockets of woods. And every now and then you're going to see a doe come squirting out of there and a buck's on her tail. It's cold, it's 30 degrees, but some really great action. And you don't get to experience this too many places in the country where you have running bucks and you have a rifle season. So we're feeling pretty confident about today. I can't believe I can see his antlers from here. He's that little. And he's not big. Yeah, I think that's a good buck. He's coming up to that barbed wire fence. He's good. You got him? We got him. Stand. We've been in the stand, I think, less than an hour. We've been here for 1 hour. We're tagged out in Nebraska. This was really awesome. It's November 10th, opening day of Nebraska gun season. And we've been seeing rutting activity all day. Now, we got in late last night. Our flight was canceled. We were snowed out in Minneapolis. We had to drive all the way. It was like 10 hours. And we got in late. And I do not like going hunting with a gun when I travel if I haven't been able to sight it after I fly. And we shot today. I had to adjust it a little bit. It put him down right on the spot. Yes. That's exactly what he was going to do. He was feeding there and he was going to come up and scent check this. Oh, he's big. Look at him. What a body on him. Oh my gosh, look at the brow tines. Holy cow. Look at the neck on him. Oh, he's a beautiful buck. You can't script any of this. Okay, when you're gutting a deer, a lot of times you can give yourself your own biology lesson. What are you gonna learn from this? Okay, we got the heart out. Kind of gross? Well, let's learn from it. That blood inside the heart is often dark. Now, this isn't perfect, but we're gonna squeeze some of that blood and look at the snow. This can make you a better blood tracker. If you think you hit the heart and you got really dark blood, chances are you hit the heart, but it's gonna give you another indicator as to what that blood might look like once it hits the ground.